I didn't do it. All right, I'll open up the app. Yo.
Hello, friends.
Hello. Putting you up in the corner. Of course, I gotta find a way to make this. There's gotta be a way to make a floating window in Zoom of just your video, right? That's a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it that little window that's already floating when I launch a call?
I do not know what you mean.
Okay, so there's like this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I make this one just show your video output and then I can make it full
Wait, I don't
screen?
even know what this is. What are we looking at?
So in the upper right corner of my video output is just the main Zoom window with like all the buttons and controls, but I've just dragged awkwardly your part of it. Like if I drag it more in, like you can see me, but I just kind of dragged you up there.
Oh,
This is
okay. I so if I were doing this, and you can do this however you want because it's your show. I would take the window that you had up before and use a window capture in OBS and crop it to just my face.
yeah, that makes sense. I'll do that next time because I gotta
Yeah.
fiddle. But how do I?
No,
Okay,
setting that stuff up is a real pain.
but this little floaty one though, I like my main window. I can choose this one to actually just have. In fact, I probably should just have it be. Actually, no. There's no way I can make it.
Because speaker, you can you pin me in
Yeah.
that? If you uh like right click, or is there a usually there's like a thing in the upper right corner. Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Okay, pin.
Pin
Where is that though?
pin to first no,
There,
pin to first screen. That's not what you want.
I think it is.
Oh, maybe it is.
I think
All
it.
right.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Oh,
now
that's pretty good.
that's okay. Can I make it float above Dorico?
Oh, because you're gonna use
Yeah,
the I
because then
doubt
you're gone
float.
every time I.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever. I'll just toggle it. Um, I can also just make my Dorico window a little.
What if you so right now if you move me over to the left side of the screen so that I was then you wouldn't need as much space for the Dorico window. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That seems fine.
That works.
Yeah. So, are you gonna are you
Adventures
gonna
in Zoom.
you gonna school me today? I'm ready to be schooled.
I don't know. We'll find out. We'll see how much schooling you need.
I mean, here's the deal: is when I go into Engrave mode, uh,
Command 3.
I usually I should make everything show up on the screen. Wouldn't that be cool if I knew how to do that? Isn't there something that can do that? Make your
There are several things that can do that. There's some of them that are free, some of them you can get in the App Store. Um, I think the one that I have several that are installed. I think the one that I'm currently digging is called Keystroke Pro,
I've heard of that one.
something like that. But there's a free one called Keycaster. that you can get on GitHub.
I feel like someone should make that something for OBS that just, automatically when.
That would be very cool to just have it in the because right now all of these show up on screen because they're also super useful for like in-class demonstrations. Right. Where you're not doing any magic screen sharing OBS stuff. You're just literally sharing your display. But yeah, that would be a cool plug-in or whatever they call them. There probably is one. There's a bunch of stuff like that though for OBS that only works on Windows because we're not using OBS for video games. We're not using Windows.
Of course, right. Well, Command 3 to Engrave Mode.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, I don't even know how to describe my experience with Engrave Mode. I don't really know what I'm doing. So
okay.
I figured I could give you some. This is not necessarily the best score. That's an example of what I would use some of my ideas for, but I have a couple things that I'd love to know how to do. And then probably there are a lot of things that like little tricks and tips and, things that you know of that I've never even would have thought to do.
Yeah.
Things like the frames that we talked about last time. I know we were having this discussion. So I guess.
Yeah. So basically, I think it's worth explaining what frames are and sort of how they work. Frames are a concept that Dorico has taken from desktop publishing applications. So if you've ever used InDesign, for example, this is like the big, publishing application that people use to do page layouts for magazines or flyers or whatever. And frames are just containers for stuff. And in InDesign, there are different kinds of frames. Some of them hold text, some of them hold images, and they can connect to one another in different ways that are meaningful. And in Dorico, there are 3 types of frames. There are frames that can hold music, like staff notation. There are frames that can hold text, and there are frames that can hold images. And at least for me, I rarely use the graphic frame, which is the one that can hold an image file, though I can imagine ways in which it could be useful. The main ones that are there, and these are the ones that are kind of built into the default templates, is that there is a music frame, which are the ones that are blue boxes, and there are text frames, which are the ones that are green boxes. And the music frames exist in a chain. And that chain is the I'm trying not to use the word flow, but it's the chain is the ordering of all of the music, and they connect so that if you run out of space in one music frame, it will move the next to the next music frame. And this is exactly how pages work in Dorico. You'll notice if you wanted to insert a page break in Dorico doesn't call it a page break, it calls it a frame break, because by default there is one frame of music on each page, right? And so right now in this thing that we're looking at, how many pages are there? It looks like 5 pages in this document. And so when it gets to the bottom of each frame, it runs out of space and it goes to the next frame, right? So if you wanted to edit the frames, you need to go, they're like, Engrave Mode is kind of funky in that there are, as of now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different like sub modes to Engrave Mode. And right now you're in the first one, which is called like Note Editor or something like that. Or Graphic Edit, what is it called?
And those are accessed
Graphic Editing
with these buttons.
Yes.
Right here.
So this one in the top is the graphic editor, and that's where you move a little symbol around a couple of points to the left or to the right.
Can I just do one thing with that just to feel like I know what that does?
Yeah. So like you could take this this rehearsal letter. So if you could scroll up to the letter B there.
Yeah.
Like if you wanted to move that, you could select it.
Oop, hold on.
And whoa.
Let me actually zoom correctly since I can. All right, there we go.
Right. Yeah. So this is where you would move the like vertical or horizontal position of this symbol, right? So that's what the graphic editor is for. Because ordinarily in the regular write mode, things get placed automatically. You might have a little bit that you can do with their graphic positioning in write mode, but not a lot. So if you want to do really fine detail stuff, move this, 1/9 of a millimeter to the left or right, this is where you do that. You also have a bunch of settings in what we're now calling the lower zone, the properties panel, where you can tweak some things about the graphic display of elements. So you've got some settings here for that. You've got a lot more settings. Like if you click this this F sharp that you have at the end of the screen that you have here, you'll have a lot of ways that you can change the way accidentals are displayed, and these are a lot more detailed and just kind of fiddly than all of the similar settings in write mode. Some of them are duplicated between write mode and engrave mode, but a lot of them are a little bit more fiddly and much more graphically focused than semantically focused. These things aren't generally going to change the musical meaning of the notation. They're just going to change the way it looks, which is basically what engraving is. So that's the note editing sub mode. There's probably a name for the sub modes, but it's not sub mode because that sounds silly, but whatever. So I don't know. Does that explain note editing mode? All right.
Yeah, it does. Is there a way, like, let's say I wanted to make this note head bigger. Is that a separate set of features, or if I wanted to make the stem longer?
That's one that's both in engrave mode and write mode, I think. But if you select it and go down to the properties panel again in the lower zone, it's in the very first chunk. It's called scale. And so if you turn on custom scale, you can say what size you want to make it. So those are the normal scales. So those are like built in. So turn it normal for a sec and turn off the custom scale will let you enter a percentage.
Cool.
And this is, by the way, this is one of a couple of methods for hiding things. So if you ever needed to hide something, and this is a thing, I just wrote a post on Scoring Notes this week about how to prepare worksheets and things. And this is one of the techniques for hiding stuff is setting the custom scale to 1%. It won't let you set it to 0, but it will be hidden. And what's cool there is it mostly keeps the rhythm spacing accurate. The other way to hide stuff is to use the color property right below and set an object either to be white or to be transparent. So if you click the little black square there, and it will open the color picker, the system color picker. So if you're on Windows, it will look very different because you'll see the Windows system color picker. But you can change it to white, or you can set the opacity all the way. So now, as soon as you click away, you'll see that it will have turned white. So that's not as good because it's on top of the staff. But if you instead click that color, turn it back to black, I guess it doesn't matter, but and then slide that opacity all the way down to 0, it will hide the note head. And if you select the whole note, it will do it for the whole note.
Right.
The entire note, not the whole note.
Right. Cool.
So anyway, that's how you hide stuff, and this is another cool thing you can do here in engrave mode with the note editor. Yeah, so that's a cool way to change colors for things, which can be useful for, especially if you're doing on-screen stuff. I know color printing is not super valuable, and if you are playing around a lot with colors, of course, you got to worry about accessibility for colorblind users. But it can be a really useful teaching tool, as long as you convey that meaning in another way.
Right. Okay. So that's kind of our graphic editing feature. That's kind of that sub mode of engrave mode.
So the next thing down is where you're going to go to edit the frames, and if you click this frame thingy, and there's actually, can we go back to note editing mode? There's a couple of other really useful things that are worth pointing out there. If you look at this thing under format music frames, this is super useful. This is where you put in a frame break. So if you want to select a note and put a frame break somewhere. And the other thing that's really useful is if you've got a couple of frames that you feel like should fit on a page, or if you've got some music that's kind of like stuck off on another page and you feel like it shouldn't be, you can kind of force it to fit on a single page. And that's how you do this. If you select the very first thing that you want to fit on the page and the very last thing that you want to fit on the page and click that big button at the bottom of the format music frames thing, that will force the two things that you've selected to fitting within one frame.
Got it. So let's say,
So
okay.
it will adjust spacing and stuff. So if you wanted to,
I wanted
let's
letter
say
C, maybe from letter
There's a
C
good
into the
example.
second measure of letter D. Maybe I would just.
Yeah, let's say you want letter D to fit onto the next page.
Okay, got it.
Right? So select the first note in letter D.
Okay.
Right? It doesn't matter which thing of the note you select, and then command click to select the last thing at the end of the next page. It's currently the last thing on the page.
The last thing on the page,
Or
or
you
can I
just,
do that?
Oh, you can do this. Yeah, that'll work too.
Okay.
And you'll see what it does. It'll probably do something a little funky, but
I
that's
think
okay.
I accidentally just clicked the bar line. Does that matter?
You can hit. I don't think so. You can hit undo to undo a selection though.
Okay, hold on, because I lost my. Okay.
You might need to shift click actually instead of command click. I might have lied.
All right, hold on. Let's see. Did I get it? Can it be the rest? Yeah,
It can be the rest. Yeah,
I
that's
lost my
fine.
selection of letter D.
So hold shift and click.
Okay, so
That's fine.
Got that, and then I'm holding shift, and then I'm just gonna choose this whole note here. I see. I lost my selection.
Try command click if you.
All right,
you're
try that
using it
again.
before.
So I've got that. Yeah, okay, I've got it.
Okay, so now click that button at the bottom of that. Not that one.
This
That'll
one,
force
yeah.
it into one system. This will force it into one frame.
Oh
or
yeah,
one
there we
page,
go. Nice.
Right. And so what it does is it forces that to start at the beginning of this frame and end wherever your other selection was. And that can be really useful. I use this all the time if I'm trying to prepare a musical example that I know should be able to fit on two systems or something like that, and it's kind of floating into the next system, and I want to collapse it so I can fit more stuff on the page, or if it just seems inefficient to me, you can force it to be one page, and then obviously that saves you pages if you're cutting off the last page of something. So anyway, that's a really useful trick there. So now let's talk about frames. So in the frame edit mode, so you can see now the frames themselves are brighter, like you can actually interact with them. So if you wanted to select this is something that's in the template. So one thing to note is that when you're doing editing of this stuff, you are overriding the master template. And so if you see when we make these kinds of changes on the right side on the pages menu here, you'll see a little red tick in the corner, and that will indicate that something on this page is altered from the way it appears in the template that you're using, the master page. So let's say you wanted the music to, I don't know, would be a good example of this.
Well, what kind of frame do you want to use first? Like text? Like what if I wanted to just add
Okay,
a
so
block
first
of
let's
text
just
up here?
let's not add any frames yet. Let's see, what key are we in here? Are we in?
We're G minor. So oh yeah, and I don't know if you want to, because this I am unclear on as well. So I don't know if that's
Yes.
the direction you were headed with this.
That's not where I'm headed, but it is worth noting. So those locks are important if you're adjusting other things on the page. They are essentially locked into the top, the left, and the right, and you can move the bottom right now. You can unlock them if you want, but we're looking at so that's going to change things if you change the page size is the biggest thing there. So if you were to change the page size, this is saying that the frame that you have selected, which is the header frame that says Moscow 1941 warm-ups, if you were to change the page size, the header frame would still lock to the top, the left, and the right margin. And the bottom would change, though, because it would change to a different margin or a different paper size or whatever. But I think a good example of something that you might want to do in something like this, you would not probably do this in the score, but let's say you wanted the student to like see the scale of the thing that they're looking at separate from the actual thing. Can we go, I don't want to mess up your actual document, or are we going to be able to like roll this back later?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to the flute part or something.
Okay.
Can you open the flute part for a sec? I think this will make more sense on a part
Do you
than
want
on
me
the
to
score.
like switch modes or just like focus on it?
No. Do you know? So up at the top,
Yeah.
click full score, and drop down to the flute part. All right. So, what we can do is make some space and put another staff that just is for the G minor scale up at the top of the page, and you can just write it in quarter notes or whole notes or whatever. It doesn't matter. And I see that that's exactly what's happening here. It doesn't really matter. But is there something else? What's another thing that you might want to show the student that's separate from the actual piece that we're looking at?
Speaking just about like doing
like what would be a thing that you would want to show the student here at the top?
well, it was just this. Okay, so this is not a super practical example, but just for the better understanding of how the frames and their locks and limits and sort of like manipulating them works. I was gonna see what like can I put a PNG in here and like fade almost like I was thinking about this the other day. Like my elementary school piano method book had cute pictures at the top.
Yeah.
Margin.
Let's do it on the flute part. It'll make more sense in a part than a score.
Okay.
So while you're here, I think the first thing to do is to make some room at the top of the page, maybe between the title and the frame chain.
So here's a question: can I not? And this comes to the great recent episode of Scoring Notes podcast that you were on, where like you talked about when to leave the notation software and like use a word processor or some kind of graphical design application. Can I do something in Dorico where I like make a really like sort of wide image that is like very opaque and sort of in the background of my other existing frames?
You can put another frame that's like I don't know how the stacking order works, but you can definitely have the frames overlap one another.
Okay.
So
yeah.
If you wanted to insert a graphic, you can do that. You would click the third of the insert frames button at the top. So that's the graphic frame. And now you just drag out a rectangle on your page.
Okay.
So
yeah, my idea was like, can this be the rectangle? Like,
yep.
Okay. Why not? Just get a little wacky. Okay.
Yep. And so now you can just drag an image into that frame.
Like straight from
I've never used a graphic frame, but I think this is how you can use it. It's just drag in.
This has nothing to do with the piece
file
at all. It's just the first PNG file that showed up when I searched my computer. All right. Does it not do PNGs? I just got an error.
I think it does PNGs.
Oh, it says error opening file, yet there is now a progress bar.
We'll see.
Okay. Well, it seems like it wants me to click OK here. All right. I don't think it liked that.
What are your options when you open the properties panel?
Let's find out. Let's see.
No? What if you double click in the middle of that where that X is?
Like there.
No? What if you right click it? Oh, what's happening?
Oh,
there you go.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So let me see. Where can I find? Let me find. Oh, I see. Do we think maybe this will now work?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me put the thing I wanted on the.
It says any readable file. You can see it's listing ping as one of them.
Yeah. Okay. Now, why am I grayed out on this? Is this like a Mac OS thing?
I do not know.
It's interesting. Oh, now it's not. It's maybe Dorico was.
Oh, you didn't have focus.
All right. There we go.
There you go. That's weird. It seems that it has created this frame above the music frame, but below the text frame in the title.
So can I?
So you can choose the fill mode down here. So so you can say how you want this to fill that frame.
Okay.
So it stretches it there for fill.
Got it. Okay. So
and you can choose the anchor point too, which could be useful. So that's going to stretch it over the whole thing. Okay. There's probably a way to. What are the other fill modes?
Unscaled, aspect, and then fill.
Interesting. Okay.
what else can I do with this image? Is that pretty much it? Or can I like make it opaque? Can I do any editing to
So
the image?
I think that kind of thing would be something that you would have to do with, like, the image would have to start off as the image that you want to stick in there.
But I could do like if the PNG was opaque, like had some amount of
Had
transparency to it.
transparency, yeah.
That would have been like if had I done that in an editor before dragging it in here, I would get that effect in Dorico.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the image. So if you wanted to, say, add a block of text here to give the player some special instruction about fingering or, watching the conductor or whatever, you can see there's a couple of empty text frames there. And if you look at the master page, you will see that those are placeholders. The one on the left is a placeholder for the lyricist, and the one on the right is a placeholder for the composer's name. And you can insert stuff into these text frames, and you can use tokens, or you can just type stuff in. By editing this, we have already overridden the master page, and so it doesn't really matter. But if you wanted to just enter this stuff in the quote unquote right way in Dorico, you would use the project info dialog. So if you hit Command I, that will open the project info dialog, and you can say for this project the composer is whomever. So I think you may have already overridden the title somewhere, but if you change the composer to whatever you want,
We'll give respect to the composer of this actual middle school band piece, Brian Balmages. He didn't technically compose it though. What's the appropriate way to? Am I the arranger in this case?
So if you want to say R. Robbie Burns is the way I would say that.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to say. Well, you could put that. Don't worry about it. We can figure that out. Hit apply, and you'll see. I don't think your name is going to show up. Get rid of the R. I don't think you want that. Say apply. Close. Interesting. Oh, I think it's because we've already overridden the template. So that's not going to change anything here.
Interesting. Will it in write mode? Will I see it there?
No.
Okay.
So once you've overridden the template, it won't use the master page for anything.
Isn't this though, like, I mean, what I'm doing here is these are like super common Engrave Mode features. So it seems like the slightest touch kind of is taking away the ease.
No, because if this is a thing that you really wanted to show in every part, you would add it into the master page. So right now, master page is the template. That's how everything is built from the beginning, is built to match the master page. So if you wanted to add this in a way that still used the master page, you would do that in the master page editor. So if you slide the window over so we can see the right side of the
like here.
like the window itself. Yeah. So you see that little red marker there? That indicates that there's an override. So if you right click that and say remove page overrides.
Okay.
We'll lose the graphic frame that we just created.
Okay.
But interesting. We still don't see the composer's name. Oh, probably because it's the flow composer. Go back into the project info for a sec. You see, there's we're editing the project level data. Select flow 1. Okay. That's what we're seeing. So now type composer here, and I'm sure the name will show up when you hit apply. So close. Yeah, there we go. So look over in the right panel. You'll see this thing that says master pages.
Yep.
And there's first and there's default. So first is what we're seeing here on the first page, and default is what we're seeing for every other page. So double click first, and we can edit what shows up there. Mm-hmm. Now here, if you zoom in to we're actually looking at the right side title page, but it doesn't matter because you can copy them between the two. You see where it says flow composer there? Mm-hmm. So go in and edit that and make a new line. after this. So make a new after the closing. Yeah. And now we're going to use the token, that wildcard that's there. So type the same kind of thing, but instead of composer, write arranger at, and then curly brace. Yeah. And so that tells the application to grab the arranger field from the flow project info that you just edited, and put it in there. And if you want it to say ARR period before that, you can just type that in front of this wildcard before the brace. Yeah. Right. Cool. And so now click, before you say apply, up at the top, say copy page layout from left to right. Because we just edited the left side one. We want this to be the same whether we're looking at a left side page or a right side page.
Okay, where is that?
Right in the center. It says copy page layout. There you go.
There we go. Okay.
And now click apply. And now close.
Okay.
Right next to the apply.
Got it. Okay.
And now you should see. There you go.
There we go. Nice.
And so that way we did this on every page. Now we did not impact the score because the score uses a different master page than the part.
Right.
Well, actually we may have. I'm not sure. Let's look at the score. I'm curious. Nope. Okay. It does use a different master page. Oh, because it says right there, current is default full score. Cool. So let's go back to the parts and edit that master page again to show the graphic. So we can do exactly the same thing you did before, but do it in the master page, and then it will show up on every first page. You probably don't want it to show up on every page. So you could. If you wanted to edit every page, you would use the default master page. And so that applies to every page after the first page.
Got it. Okay. So we'll go to first, do a little graphic.
This is something that's kind of annoying. It's very difficult, and there's a way to do it, but I'm not sure what. There's like a keyboard shortcut you have to use to get to something that it thinks is not the topmost frame.
Trying to move it so I can more easily click it.
Yes,
okay.
You can do that down here because it's going to be on top of the music frame.
Okay. Oh, is this
all right,
why
so
won't
if you
this
do the
go
same
any higher?
thing,
What do I need to unlock to make this?
So it won't let you put a frame outside the margin.
Okay.
You just can't do it.
This is going to be right up where my composer name is, though.
No, it was, well, if you shrink it a little bit, it won't interact with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
And
if I wanted
you still want to say what?
If I wanted to lower this, I would just drag this down. Yeah, there we go. Okay. And how you're talking about what's on top? How do you know if this or the music is on top? Is there
Only because I saw it happen earlier.
Can I send to back? Is that a thing in Engrave
I
Mode?
don't know how to impact the stacking order.
Okay. All right. Okay, cool. Yeah, I've never done anything with the master page, so that's excellent.
So now make sure that you copy it to both sides and then apply it, and then it will be on every first page of every part.
Okay, but hold on though. Explain the right page to me again. I'm just not conceptualizing what the flute, because this is probably going to be like a couple pages long for the flute player. So,
right. So there's a different template for left side pages and right side pages. And that's not super important for the first page, but it is super important for everything after the first page. For example, you would always want the page number to be on the outside corner of the page, not the inside corner of the page next to the binding.
Right.
Right? So for that reason, there is a left side version and a right side version of every master page. The way your parts are set up right now, none of them uses the left side version of the page. They all only use the right side version of the page.
I see. So I'm just getting confused.
So it doesn't matter which one you're editing as long as you remember to copy it so that it applies to both.
We're not making anything happen to the second page. We are just changing what the first page looks like no matter what side it happens to be printed on.
Correct.
I have to think about this like a printer, not like a...
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And now make sure you click apply. And now if you go back to every single part, you should see that image in the top right corner.
Yep. Cool.
Right. Cool. So we'll do this. Do you want to do this next part in the master page, or do you want to do it on the page? One of the downsides of editing stuff in the master page is you can't actually see the music while you're doing it. Mm-hmm. But let's say you wanted to put like a few sentences of instructions to the student at the beginning of their part. And if you wanted that to be the same for everyone, so let's say you wanted to give the exact same instruction to every person in the band, you would do that on the master page. But if you wanted to only give an instruction to the flute player, you would do that here in the flute part, and you would have to just live with the fact that there is an override. And the problem with the override is that if you do the override and then go back and make any changes to the master, those won't take effect unless you remove the override. So you want to do overrides last. So let's say that you wanted to give some instruction to the flute player. So to do that, you'd need to move this music frame down a little bit so you have room. So click the music frame. No, that's a text frame.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And we're not gonna use that text frame because that's for the lyricist. So yeah, move the music frame down a little bit, and you'll see as you do this, eventually you might see some. So grab the handle in the center. You're gonna actually shrink it.
Okay.
So the handle at the top center.
Okay.
Yeah. And so some of the music just moved over to the next page. That's fine.
Okay.
That's what we expect. And the reason it does that is worth noting out. You see in the top left corner of the music frame, there's a thing that says MA. So that's indicating that this is part of the main frame chain. So if you wanted, you could have two completely separate flows of music that go. You could like have this say start over again at the beginning of the next page for whatever reason. I don't know why you would want that, but you could. So this says that every frame in the MA is going to go in order from 1, and if you look at the top of the next page, it'll say MA2. So you can start a new chain if you want, but MA2. So this says, oh, no, maybe not. I lied. So this is going to be the next thing in this frame chain. I guess it only gets that if they're on the same page. Anyway, okay. This says that this flows on to the next thing. If you had more flows, this would be more meaningful. But so now let's make a text frame here at the top of the page. Yeah. And you can, this is actually improved quite a bit since Dorico version 1. You have a lot more control over the text that goes in there. It doesn't all have to be, like you could italicize one word in a paragraph or something like that. So it used to be a little simpler than this. But this is how I would, on a worksheet or something, enter directions for a student. And you can see that this only impacted this one page, right?
So, you mean it's not going to show up?
So if you go to the
oboe
page, it's not going to be there, right?
Now, if I wanted this to impact every page, that's not.
You would do it in the master page.
Okay, so let's go to the oboe, and we want our. Hold on, yeah, we want our first master page to. All right, we'll just move you down. Okay, and then
Uh-huh.
move that from left to right. Is there a default that can just say, hey, if I edit the left first page, change it to the right first page?
No, what you could do is only edit the right first page, since you know that all of your documents start on the right side.
Yeah. Okay. Apply, close,
Right.
and we're there.
Yeah. So now it's worth noting that this did not impact your flute part because your flute part had overrides.
Right.
If you want it to, you can always remove that override, and then the flute part would start looking like all of the other parts.
Now, is that as simple as deleting this? Because I also moved the frame. So is moving the frame part of the
No.
override?
So to remove the override, you need to do the thing in the pages panel where you right-click the page and say remove page overrides.
Oh, right. Yeah, I'm not going to remember that. Okay. There we go. There's my new styling of the place off direction.
Right. Right. Can we go to setup real quick for a sec? Setup mode.
Oh yeah, setup mode. Thank you. Okay.
And I want to make a new flow.
Is that button not one way to do it? Gosh, it's slow. Does it take that long on your computer?
No, it does take a long time sometimes though. And for this flow, let's see. Okay. So in this flow, just go in and put some kind of music.
Do we want to do our scale thing?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. What instrument are you writing in? Are you writing only in the flute part?
Yeah, this is the flute. So let's see. Okay. We'll just
Okay.
leave
Cool.
it like that for now. Okay.
Cool. Cool. So this is only in the flute part. It won't show up for anybody else. But that's only because this music doesn't exist for anybody else. So
actually, I've never even done what I just did before. Okay, if I'm in setup while okay.
You're not in setup anymore. You're in right.
Okay, so what does that do? Like, let's say I go to my oboe second flow and I start writing something different. That's gonna it's gonna limit me to the same. Like, I'll be in the same key. Like, if I switch over to oboe, there will be a second flow. It's gonna be where would it? Yeah. Okay.
And it's going to be empty right now.
Okay, but it's still an open meter. Okay, got it. All right.
So if you go to your score, you'll see that there is a flow at the end of your score too.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So now let's if you want, you can copy and paste that to every staff, but it doesn't matter.
I've got a fun keyboard shortcut for this, by the way.
Okay. I want to try something real quick in the full score.
Sure.
So let's say we don't need this scale to show up in the full score because you, Robbie, conductor, know how G minor scale works.
Right.
So in Engrave Mode, pull down the frame settings thing. So scroll up and to the left a little bit so we can see the frame chain settings up and to the left.
Okay.
There, those things. So click MA. See what your settings are. No, it's in where it says flows all. Change that. Oh, maybe we can only do this in what are your options under 1?
Under 1, I've got a 1 or a 1. That's it.
I want to change this to only be flow 1 and not include flow 2. What happens when you select the frame itself? Do you get any settings down in the properties panel?
I do, yeah. I get music, frames. That's pretty much it. Top padding, bottom padding, left top, right bottom.
I need to Google search real quick.
While you're doing that, I'll say my cool shortcut. So let's just assume that we're going to hide this from the score, but we're going to put it in all of the parts over in write mode. if I have a selection, there's a command called copy to. Basically, I just want to like have each instrument's staff like basically just have this part as quickly as possible. So basically, there's like a copy to below, or like I think move. No, I think the one that's like default into the system that has a keyboard shortcut already built in is Option M, which moves it down. But what I like to do is actually copy it down. So I added a keyboard shortcut, Option Command M, will just basically duplicate the notes down. And this is common when I make resources like this for band, where I need to basically have everyone playing a unison. I'll just start with the flute, and then Option Command M to get it down, and then just by holding the Option and the Shift and the down arrow. Nope, not Shift. Which one am I looking for? Option Command down. Thank you.
Command, yeah.
I mix them up all the time. But then yeah, so basically like by holding the Option in the Command key, I can just bounce between M and then the up and the down arrows to really quickly get this into all of my different instruments. I would obviously tweak which register they're all going to play this in, or read it in this case.
Right.
But that's a pretty quick way to do it.
So I just realized my error, and it's that the edit that I was going to suggest that you have to do in the master page, not in the primary page.
Okay.
So back in Engrave Mode, if we go to let's go with the it doesn't really matter. Let's go to the default page, which is the master page on the right. Go down to default. Okay. Under first.
Yep.
No. So this is the first master page. We don't want to edit the first master page. We want to edit the one below that, which is the default master page. That's what everything after the first page is going to use.
But we want this scale little thingy to show up on the first page, though, don't we?
Not in the score. We're only editing the score. We don't want it to show up at all in the score.
Okay, got it. All right, so default.
Okay, so now we see that thing that says flows all is not grayed out. We zoom in to the top left corner of any of these pages.
Got it. Okay.
Flows all. So we can filter this. So only give us the first flow. It's selected down at the bottom. So only the first flow, not the second flow.
Okay.
Okay. And now do the copy to the other page thing.
Got it.
And apply. And now, magically, that music still exists, but it won't be in the score. So if you scroll down to the end, you won't have that last page anymore.
I do.
Wait. Oh. What? Did you apply? Oh. This looks like it's using... Oh, okay. I see what's going on. This should use... It's because it's using the first master page. In your layout settings, Command-Shift-L... I'm sorry, this is getting way more complicated than I intended for it to. Flows. There, right under page setup. Flows. Use first master page. Let's see, for new flows up at the top there. Use first master page. First flow only.
Okay,
apply.
Let me wrap my head around what this is going to do. Okay, so we want to, so if we edit the master page, if we edit the master page for page 1, we want it to only affect flow 1. Is that what we just did?
So there are two separate templates. Sorry, I did not plan this lesson. Very bad teacher. There are two separate templates. The first master page is used for the first page of a document, and the default master page is used for every page after that. The default setting in the layout options says to use that first template, the first page template, anytime there's a new flow. So it'll give you the flow and the composer and everything else after the first flow. But what we're telling it now is say only use that first page template for the actual first page of only the first flow. So it will actually be the first flow of the document, only the first page of the document. Everything after that, use the default master page.
So I'm writing my symphony, and it's going to have the movements, or all 4 movements are going to be all laid out across the same player's part. But I add a cute cartoon image of some children playing in the snow on page 1. It's not going to show up at the beginning of every new movement, only at the beginning of the very first page of the whole
With
part.
this setting, yes.
Okay. I think that professional parts should include the cute pictures of cartoon graphics.
I think so.
Yeah.
Mine do.
Do they really? Do you have?
No.
but why not? Come on, you know.
So hit apply, and I think this will get the result that I expected it to have before. Yeah. Oh, son of a gun. Why is that happening? Up at the top, what is the frame chain and...
I'm sorry, where am I going?
So we are using the default template, though. It still says flows all up at the top. Did we apply the template that we said? Yeah, flows all, players all.
Yeah, we don't.
So we can't edit that here. We can only edit it in the master page.
Okay.
So can we go back into the default master page for a sec? And zoom in to see if that did the right thing that we thought it did. This still says flows all. We must not have saved.
I must not have applied
whatever we did.
Okay.
So yeah, select flow 1 and not flow 2.
Okay.
And then click away.
That must be. I didn't click away last time.
That's what it was. Yeah. Now copy to the right side and hit apply. Okay. Well, maybe so hit close now.
Okay.
And yeah, now you're only 5 pages.
Okay.
This is what I expected to happen earlier.
So maybe I don't. Well, I still do want that option. Sorry, I'm in the wrong page. I still do want that check though, right? Unless I want.
Yes. Yes.
Well, it doesn't matter though, because there's only one flow, right?
There's 2 flows. We're just not showing the other one.
Okay, got it. All right. So sweet. So now, are we going to add our little notey?
Now go to the flute part, or any part.
Okay.
And see, that's showing up at the end. We can get rid of that the same way we got rid of it the first one on the score. But let's put it at the beginning, because this will be more fun at the beginning.
Okay.
Okay. We can deal with this end bit later.
So am I actually just going to move this where I want it?
Sort of.
Or am I going to use a music frame to...
We're gonna make a new music frame.
Okay, got it. All right.
So make a new music frame. Yeah, and you can put it right there off to the right. So it's like to the right of your play soft.
Okay.
Okay. And now select... Yeah, it already did it automatically.
It's just kind of new. Okay.
Yeah.
But if it didn't, and I wanted to use... Let's say I have 5 flows, and I wanted to use flow 5.
Mm-hmm. You just click that little drop down.
Okay.
And select whichever flow you want.
Okay.
And there you go.
So let's say, this seems like it would be really good for, let's say I wanted to make a worksheet with maybe 5 different separate lines of music that are all broken apart with some text instructions in between each one. Look at the notes of this scale.
Exactly how you would do it.
You would create, it might be easiest to create 5 or 6 different flows, one for each line, and then create, but would you need to hide all of the flows from the master document and then re-add them as music frames in order to get that to look good?
So you can create as many frames and flows as you want. Let me.
I guess what I'm saying is, can I get a Dorico project to basically depict a complete blank canvas, but then all of the notes that appear on that canvas are from flows?
Every note is already in a flow.
Right.
So you would just need to set all of the sizes and positions of all of the frames that are there.
So it would make
you can do that.
Yeah, it would make most sense to actually do it probably exactly in the same way that we did. It's just that my first flow would not be this long, 8 rehearsal marking long thing. It would already kind of look the way I want it to.
Exactly.
Okay.
Is there a way that you could show, whoops, is there a way that you could show my screen? I'll show you an example that I
Yeah.
have open in front of me.
I think I need to give you permission to share your screen.
Well, I was just going to do it this way.
That's great. Let's do that.
And I am now in the bottom right corner of my own screen.
I love it.
Let me know if when that's like, oh, I need to move zoom over here. Yeah.
Yeah, you're good to go. You are occupying the full screen of the stream.
So this is a handout that I used in my class, my Theory 1 class recently on compound meter. So here at the top, and I'm not using the first layout at all here. I ticked the setting to never use the first layout because like the title is not super important here. So I've got a couple of examples of scores of music in compound meter. I'm using this thing here is called a flow heading. So you can set just the same way that there is a master page for the whole page. There's another master for the flow heading, which just has the title and the composer. And I don't like centering titles, and so this is how I show stuff in handouts, is with the flow title all the way to the left and the composer all the way to the right.
Is that a handout template that you made that you can...
So you can't really share templates in Dorico, which is a bummer. There's not an equivalent to what Sibelius calls house styles. But this is how you would, change the way a label for a flow shows up at the beginning of a flow. And so I've got this excerpt from Lift Every Voice and Sing, and I've got this other excerpt from You've Really Got a Hold on Me. And so those are here in the flow headings. And then here on the right, you can see I've got another flow that I have written out, and this was for an in-class kind of practice thing where I asked the students to write the rhythm here with the correct beaming for 6/8 with an eighth note pickup, as I say. And then I have these blank staves down here for them to do that, which is another thing that you can do with a music frame in Dorico. So you can add, this is a super cool thing, you can create a frame that just has blank staves that are exactly the same size and proportion as your other staves. And to do that, you just create a music frame and tell it where you pick the flow. So if you're creating a flow manually, this is really a lot easier. And you can tell it blank staves is one of the options here. So if you say fill this with blank staves, it will just fill with as many blank staves as fit in the space. So if I make this big enough, it will fit 3. If I make it too small, it'll just fit 1. And it will just fit as many blank staves as fit with your staff spacing settings.
Okay. And those settings are in...
Layout options.
Layout options. Okay. Got it.
So in layout options, you can Command-Shift-L. In layout options with vertical spacing, you can say how much space you want between staves or between systems in the inter-system gap. And I think that's the one that controls the spacing for these blank staves. But you can make as many of these as you want. And so this is a document that I don't know if I would do this exactly the same way if I were starting it over today, but I have one giant Dorico project that has tons and tons of score examples and handouts from my Theory 1 class, and they're all in different layouts. So if I go to setup mode, you can see I've got some different voice parts, a piano part, some other single staff parts, a choir part, and these are all just set up through different flows. Each flow has different instrumentation, and they all go to these different layouts. And these are all using the custom layout instead of the score and part layout. So I can select different layouts over here. So here's a handout about major key signatures. And it just has key signatures, some instructions, or some text here at the top. And then another one about scales. You can see this is like kind of mostly text. And if I switch over to Engrave Mode, you can see
Can you
how
like,
those frames work
yeah,
out.
can you kind of like break down the concept of a layout and a flow? Like how are those related and
Yeah.
not the same thing?
Yes, that's a great question. It took me a while to wrap my head around this. So a layout is a document, like pages of a document. And the layout can contain any combination of flows and instruments
So it's like
or
FileMaker
players.
layouts basically.
I don't know FileMaker, but
It's
possibly.
Yeah, I
Sorry,
mean,
I'm a
it's like
bad
it's
Apple
not
nerd.
really. It's just sort of like a free place for you to arrange and graphically orient all of the data that is actually stored in other parts of your file.
Right. And so what's cool about layouts is you can make whatever combination of flows and players makes sense to you. So for example, you could make a layout for a piece that like say you've got a band piece and you wouldn't do this with beginning band, but a lot of times in band music, instead of giving, 4 different percussion parts, the composer will give a percussion score, and then the players can determine on their own how to divide those different instruments among themselves based on the setups and whatever personnel and gear they have available. So you could make a new layout that has the flow of each of the 4 movements of a 4 movement piece, and then instead of automatically assigning that part to just percussion 1, you can say this flow includes all of percussion 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's what's happening in your band score right now. So here, if I go to setup mode for this, you can see I've got, I'll take a look at the one I was just doing earlier. Let's see. Here's my compound meter handout. If I select that over here, you can see that the compound meter handout that I just showed has a piano staff and a choir staff in it. And that's because Lift Every Voice and Sing, I don't know why I have it set up this way. There's a singer and a piano. And then You've Really Got a Hold on Me, I have written for soprano. And so now in the compound meter handout, I need all of that stuff to show up.
Why? Okay.
For
Why did you not just have treble clef like for your clef, a bass clef staff, and then a grand staff as 3 separate players, and then just have different flows to break apart all these different pieces of music? That's kind of what. That's why this whole
in
topic
some ways,
hit my brain.
there's a more organized way. There's definitely a more organized way to do this. That's for sure.
Okay.
But that's a lot of this stuff is because this is a document that I have added to and added to and added to over 3 or 4 years. Let's see. Make sure I don't have any more notifications coming in. Away. Do not disturb.
In case it makes you feel better, that is like you can't read that over
Okay.
the stream.
Good.
It's a blurred mess.
Okay. So, let's see. So here on the scale handout page that we're looking at, you can see I've got one staff that I'm using here, and it's the soprano staff. And I have several flows that are a part of this, though. I have a flow called D major scale, a flow called B minor scale, a flow called D minor scale, and that's what's going on in here. So these are each a different flow that's happening in order, that's filling in those spaces.
But it's the same player or instrument that's playing, right? Okay.
Now, it could be different instruments. Like one thing that I try not to favor treble clef as like the default for an abstraction, but in this document I clearly did. But if I wanted, I could, put some of these on a bass staff and say that this is a cello or something like that.
Right.
And so that's a thing that I do as well. So see if I have any of the examples of that. I don't think I do. But this makes it really easy to include large chunks of a bunch of things together. So this is just like a bunch of hymn settings that I use for kind of generic analysis that are all part of the same document. And so I can do that. But what's really cool is that if I want, I can include just one piece of this in a different document.
So can you show me how a layout is created from scratch? Like, let's just say I wanted you to take, it's my country tis of thee. I want you to make a whole brand new document that's getting sent home to kids, and it's got your name at the top, sentence of instructions, and then my country tis of thee.
Okay. So to do that, here in setup mode, I'm going to create a new layout.
Okay.
So down here, and it's automatically called custom score because that's what this third version of a layout is.
Okay.
And I'm going to call this demonstration handout thingy.
I didn't really think that I'm asking you to edit your like most important file.
So this doesn't edit anything.
Okay.
So I'm just making a new layout here.
Well, you're doing
and so right now, the layout does not include any flows, nor does it include any instruments. And because of that, I can't even select it as a thing to look at. It's not in this list. Okay. So down here, the last flow that I have, let's see, I'm not zooming in. There we go. The last flow that I have down here is, I don't know if you can see this, is Iron Man. And demonstration handout thingy is not in this list here. And the reason is I haven't added anything to it yet. So you said that you wanted me to include My Country Tis of Thee, which is down here in my list of flows somewhere.
Or any of them, really.
Here we go. So I'll tick that, and I will add, just for the sake of making it interesting, I will add Iron Man. All right. So I've made this new handout, but you can see I still don't actually have a demonstration handout thingy in my list because I also haven't added any instruments to it. If I click Black Sabbath Iron Man by itself, you can see that it has soprano as its instrument. And so I need to add soprano to the demonstration handout thingy as well.
That is a little fiddly, I think. Can it not just tell that you added that?
No, because I might not want to include every flow, right? This is the example that I was talking about earlier. If I was creating a percussion score, I wouldn't want to include the clarinet part in my percussion score.
But if you toggled on a flow, but you might not necessarily.
It doesn't know,
yeah.
Right? It doesn't have any reason to know that I don't want to include everything.
Okay.
And by default, it includes nothing. So now I do have demonstration handout thingy.
Okay.
Here, right? So that's my new layout here. The next thing that I would want to do is add the instrument that is used by My Country Tis of Thee. And because I'm disorganized, I don't actually know what instrument that is. So I'm going to have to click it. And if I click the flow, it will tell me what instruments are there. I'm going to guess that all of the music is actually only in choir. Nope, it's not in choir. It's in piano.
Do you type all this stuff in to write mode? Did you manually enter all of this? Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish there was like a continuity camera feature. You know the thing where you're in a keynote slide and you can like have your iPhone camera take a picture of something and that picture will just show up in your keynote slide?
Yeah.
There should be like an XML app, like one of these apps. There should basically be a way to right click on a certain part of your score, hold your phone over a short hymn in a hymnal, and then just have it.
Well, this is pretty fast. It's not that bad.
I know. I'm just thinking this is one of those things though, is like there's just a lot of moving parts, and you know.
Right. So now I have added the two flows that I want and the instruments that are used by each of those flows.
Okay.
And so now if I go over to look at the handout itself, you can see I've got 2 pages. They list the instruments for the kinds of stuff that I'm doing. I don't need the staves to be labeled. So I'm going to hit Command-Shift-L to get into my layout options. And under page setup, this all looks good. under staves and systems, I'm going to say staff labels on first system, none. Staff labels on subsequent systems, I also want none. And if I hit apply, that will also be enough to move that first flow to just 2 systems. So that's pretty good. And the other thing that I want to do under page setup is tell it that it's okay for flows to happen on the same page. And notice that I'm only changing this stuff for the highlighted layout, right? So that's important. You can do this for multiple layouts at a time, but I only want to affect this one. And so I'm just going to select that one. So here, I'm going to allow flows on an existing page, and that's going to move this over to the one that I have here. And I'm going to tell it that I would like it to show flow headings for all flows. And so now I've got the flow headings there. So this thing that showed up at the top, My Country 'Tis of Thee and Black Sabbath Iron Man with the composers over here, that is the flow heading. Now you can see the flow headings are crashing into each other a little bit. And so I need to also add some space for the top. What does it say here?
Can you not just manually drag the frame lower?
You can, but that would create an override. And I don't want to create an override. Oh, actually, I can't because this is all one frame. Right? So if I go in here and if I go into Engrave Mode, this is all one frame.
Interesting.
And so this little thing, this dotted line here, this dotted line is an indication that this is the flow heading.
What if you uncheck Black Sabbath and then just add it in as a music frame from Engrave Mode? Then
I could do. So here's another way I could do it. I see what you're going for. So the way that I could do it, the way you're describing it, is if I wanted to, I can go into frame edit mode, and this is an easier way to do what you're describing. So I'm going to get rid of this copyright line down here. Flow copyright I do not need. So I'm just going to click it, delete it, go up to the top, copy this over, and I'll move. Actually, I should, while I'm doing this, I'm going to move this frame down to the bottom margin, copy that too. So anyway, I've got all that space down here now. So now what I would do is, if I was going to do it your way, and this would be an override, but not wrong, would be to not create a new frame yet, but move this frame boundary up so that Black Sabbath doesn't fit. And the problem is weird things happen. See how I've duplicated this frame flow header? That is the problem with doing it this way. Flow headings just do completely nonsense, unexpected things when you edit the frames manually. And so that's why I avoid doing it.
Yeah, but for the kind of simple stuff I would be doing, it would almost just make sense to have a soprano, a bunch of different flows for all the music I want, and then basically create a new layout where the headings are text frames.
I'll continue doing it this way, though. So you can, even though it bizarrely duplicates this flow heading, I can still delete this flow heading that's here.
Why? Do you know why it did that, by the way? It sounds like you do.
No idea. I have no idea. It just does that when you edit the frame. So now you can see it kicked Black Sabbath over to the other page, and that's because it ran out of room in this frame, and so it moved it to the next frame, and there's not a frame down here on this page that it could go into. But I can create a new frame by clicking the music frame up here and drawing a new box down here, and now it puts it back.
Okay.
Right? Now, it does not move this thing anywhere, right? And because, notice that this is frame chain MA, and this is frame chain LA. So this is a new frame chain. If I want this to be part of the same frame chain, I can select frame chain MA, say, okay, and now this is flowing from here to here. Does that make sense? So before, this was starting a new flow, and it only included Black Sabbath in this flow. But now, this is part of the same flow, or the same chain, and so it's going to bring in that other flow, which is the next flow in the frame.
So you created a new flow from within a new layout.
I did not create a new flow. I used the wrong word. I created a new frame.
Got it. Okay.
And told it to continue the frame chain. And the frame chain's next thing. So what the frame chain does is it goes through all of the flows in the order that they exist here in layout mode from left to right. So the first flow here is My Country 'Tis of Thee. The last flow is Black Sabbath Iron Man. And so it does them in that order. And so the frame chain is just going to take each flow in order for the main frame chain.
Yeah. This is, I think this is why a lot of teachers just use that flat IO Google Docs plugin. Because what you're showing here is, you know, like when you're just basically alternating between text and a treble clef staff, like, do you want to go this far, or do you want to just open up a Google Doc and then tap some notes?
Well, I think that's totally
Yeah.
totally reasonable, right?
Yeah.
Like this is a tool for engraving professionals. It's not for everybody, and you don't have to make this kind of document. This is not how most documents are made.
No.
And you can totally do it the way you're describing, where you just have one flow and you start a new line and you put some text in as a text object in the staff, and that's going to be a much faster way to get the result. This is going to be much more reliable and look much more uniform across an entire document or range of documents. But the other way to do what I was saying earlier to avoid this kind of collision is just in your layout options, just give more top margin to flow headings. So I can say they want 15 millimeters and say apply, and now it's fine.
Yeah, between watching you drag all these contextual squares around on a screen, and between my recent experiences with using Obsidian, you're making me think about like what my dream operating system would do, which is just basically what is it? OpenDoc? Is that the the name of the thing? I don't
know.
It would be so cool if there was an operating system that where like this kind of stuff would talk to other things, because like it would be cool if I could use a tool as efficient and powerful as Dorico instead of like a flat IO Chrome extension. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And then like the data, the flow, so to speak, could feed, you know, I could open a Pages document and have a little frame inside of a Pages document that basically a Dorico frame from some Dorico project was feeding into. I don't know if that future of computing is just like too cumbersome to create like a development framework around, or if it's just that the general public would have no idea what to do with it because they think of things in the computing world as like everything lives in one place in the same way that like every object I own in my house lives in one place. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that is.
So I will say I consider this to be a big win if I make a document in Dorico that is moderately complicated and there are no overrides in the page layout.
But it also seems like overriding by using the music frames is also the easiest way to sequence a couple of quick things in a layout.
Yes.
Interesting. So do you at this point, do you feel like this tool for creating these kinds of simple things, like, is it just that you're proud of how much control you can have over like the beauty and the presentation of the document, or is this just your platform so you're comfortable staying in it? What
I feel like this is super esoteric if you have never dealt with anything that works in this way. But I'm pretty comfortable working with frame documents from using InDesign and Affinity Publisher, and like that this exact system of a music frame that flows to the next music frame that flows to the next music frame is exactly how InDesign and Publisher deal with text. Is that text flows from this frame to this frame to this frame to this frame throughout a document, and like that I totally get why this is weird and different, because it's not how Finale or MuseScore or Sibelius or Flat or anything else works. But this is how a lot of other applications work that do different things, and it definitely takes some getting used to. But to me, and you had to stop me a couple of times because there was nothing that I was doing that like felt like a weird workaround to me. That's just how the system works.
Yeah.
And I think it just takes some getting used to and understanding how the application is making certain decisions.
Well, I have a
still
copy
don't
of...
understand why it duplicates flow headings.
Right, right.
That's stupid, and they need to fix that. And they're, I mean, they're aware that that's a frustration. But I think for a lot of documents, I kind of give up on flow headings if things get too complicated.
Well, now you're just making me want to learn Affinity Publisher, which I have a copy of. If not for the better understanding this type of paradigm, maybe even just for the reason of that, like, it sounds like you sometimes do make stuff like this in that program if it can like give you more graphical control. Do you have any examples on your computer of something, actually something musical in Affinity Publisher? But I would even just look at anything you made in Affinity Publisher, music or not.
Let's see what do I have here. I have it would be extraordinarily boring, but my tenure binder I made in Affinity Publisher.
Okay.
I have a handout from I kind of have this course packet that I've developed for Intro to Composition students that is a combination of text things, and you can also like impose pages from PDF files in Affinity Publisher. So it has remind me later. Here we go. And this is a 2017 iMac running Zoom, OBS, Dorico Pro, and Affinity Publisher all at once. So we'll see if I catch anything on fire. I want to open this file. Why are you not opening the file?
What's the most commonly understood type of document I would get that like a publisher can help me make?
So it is designed for putting things together in like a PDF file, and you can use it to make a PDF file that you're going to print or hand somebody. But I'm going to show you this course packet because it includes articles that are text that I typed in or copy pasted in, as well as things that are from like chapters from books that I have either excerpted from a PDF that I just brought the whole PDF in, and chapters from scores. So here, yeah. So this is the Unit 2, Motivic Development, and this is a table of contents which is generated dynamically. Well, it's not generated dynamically. You have to click an update button to update it. But this is the table of contents. It links out to these things. I'm pretty sure I have it set up so that when I export a PDF, I can actually like click these and it will take me to that page in the document. And so you can see at the beginning is a few pages from Arnold Schoenberg's book on music composition. So his musical examples. Here is an article that I have found from the web that I've just copied and pasted a big chunk of the text from and linked to the source. Here's an excerpt from a different book. And then later on, I have excerpts from scores. These are all scores that not things that I have entered in Dorico, but things that I have PDF files of. And so this is some excerpts from different movements of Shostakovich String Quartet Number 8.
Can you publish this as an EPUB?
I could export. You can export it. I think you can export as an EPUB from Publisher. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm just thinking to myself, like, why would you? So in this particular case, why use this over a word processor?
So this gives me a lot more control. This is a frame of a PDF file. They are like resized a little bit. This links out to, you can link out to the PDF file or embed it. You can like kind of resize and rotate because these are kind of imperfect scans. So here's a different PDF document from a different piece of music. These are all stuck together, and they're not entire compositions. They're just a couple of pages from different things. Here's a different composition. This would be way cumbersome to do in like Pages.
Right.
You can see I've got a running header that has page numbers on the outside page. The left side page has the title of the whole course, and the right side page has the title of the unit that we're in. There's a different composition. I should probably rotate this.
This though, all of this though, the other thing that I had thought about other than publisher and my interest in learning it, is that, you know, just kind of for a second while you're scrolling there, coming back to the idea of Dorico, like having this sort of like frame-based paradigm. Like we've talked about this before. I really do feel like there is room for like a Pages style application in the score world, like a native app that is kind of like reverses the focus, like takes it away from the control over the musical notation, but like adds control in the graphical department. Something where you didn't have quite as many options about like how exactly the sharps and the flats are oriented on the screen, or like how long the note stems are, but something that did make it a lot easier to tap a couple of like rhythmic durations and pitches into a short 4-measure long staff and then like move it around easily on a page. Do you know what I mean? Some sort of like a music worksheet app, basically.
I mean, I feel like in a lot of ways that everything made sense to me until you got to that last part. Like dragging it around the page is then where you need to have the professional tools. If you're just entering the notes and you want it to take care of stuff about how the sharps and the flats are spaced, like that's what Dorico SE is. And then when you get to I feel like Dorico has a pretty good progression from simple to complex.
No, the progression is definitely really good. It's very, it's a, what do you call that? It's a,
progressive disclosure.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, that's not what I was thinking, but yes, that is it. Exactly it. Yeah. It's like it shows to you like what you need until you're ready to hunt for just a little bit more, and then it shows you that. But it is that way. I'm just saying like, it does.
I mean,
seem...
the other thing is you could do exactly what you were saying earlier is bounce over to Pages or whatever from just making the musical example. Like,
well, let's talk about that.
Example that's four dots long, and then you do the
right.
thing.
So and this comes to this idea which you didn't show is the not music graphical slices, which is part of the Engrave Mode we didn't show yet.
Yeah. So if I go to Iron Man, which is real simple, one system. This will make for an easy graphic slice. So if I go to Engrave Mode, this fifth thing down is Graphic Slices, and I can create a slice. So you click Create Slice here in the top, and just drag out a box. So you can drag out as much or as little of this as you want, which is pretty cool. There you go. And from here, you can see it created something called Slice 3. I guess elsewhere in this project I have Slices 1 and 2, but I could change this to be Iron Man Graphic. And when I select that, you can see I've got a bunch of options down here. So I can say I want this to be PDF, PNG, an SVG, or a TIFF. I think for simplicity, we'll go with a PNG, 600 DPI. I'm going to use color in case I have any transparency. That's a common goof that I make in Dorico, is that if you have anything that you've hidden with transparency and you select mono export, it's not going, like, it considers transparency to be a color. So if you've hidden something like we were looking at earlier on your computer with transparency, you need to make sure that you export as a color document. And we'll just export this to my desktop. Okay. And now you can click Export Selected, and this will be saved, this little rectangle that I drew. And so now I have this thing called ironmangraphic.ping on my desktop. And so now I can open a Pages document, because I need one more large application running on my computer right now. And I will create a new Pages document and put this wherever I want.
Is there a way to just copy the PNG to the clipboard without saving it to the desktop?
No, this is like one of my most frequent gripes about the graphic frames is, or graphic slices rather, is there's not a way to do exactly that. All I want most of the time is to take this one graphic slice that I have currently selected and put it on my clipboard. So this is the graphic slice that I just created, but what's cool is I can make a different one. Say I want a different slice that only has the first two measures.
Here's my other request for this feature of graphic slices, is that like way that you really, really carefully tried to line it up to the end of the bar line. It'd be great if you could just tell it the first two measures and then have it.
What I want is snapping, like when you're dragging stuff around Keynote, and this is something that doesn't exist in Engrave Mode at all. Like when you're dragging out frames, they don't snap to anything other than the margin. They won't snap to other frames. Like I want them to be able to snap to automatically line up vertically or horizontally or centered against other things or whatever. There's nothing like that. It's a little frustrating.
Exactly. But wouldn't it be nice if you could make that frame and then when you save it, it automatically would like know that you just wanted the first two bars? It would like add a double bar line to the end of the second bar. You know what I mean? Something that would make
I wouldn't want that, but yeah, I can imagine that would be a thing. So I'm going to call this Iron Man Measures 1 and 2. This is a thing that I learned recently from Leo Nicholson. So I'm going to export this as a PDF, and I called it Iron Man Measures 1 and 2 here in the top, so I'll have two things. When I click Export, it'll export both of them. Again, and it'll warn me, I think. Nope, it won't. It won't warn you. It'll just overwrite. So I have this tiny little PDF here. I have been told, I've not tried this, that you can just drag a PDF file into Pages.
Hey.
Haha. And now what's cool is this is a vector graphic, so you can scale it forever.
Huh. Okay.
So now I've got two graphics, and I can put whatever text around these I want, because it's just a regular Pages document.
Cool.
So that's how you can do this sort of thing. It's a little closer to what you're saying, and now I can just type whatever I want here at the beginning. How do I image, arrange, move with text? Sure. How do I get my cursor back at the beginning? There we go.
This has been like a masterclass. I feel like I just watched 3 hours of online instructional videos.
I used to have this lorem ipsum text expander shortcut. There it is.
Nice.
Forgot what the shortcut was. There we go.
Cool.
Boom.
Looking good.
Has he lost his mind indeed?
Oh, man. All right. I feel like, how long is this stream? I don't know. Is anyone going to watch it if it's longer than an hour and a half?
6, 8, 12 hours? I don't know. It's been longer than an hour, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. If you're the one person who's apparently watching this stream, either on Twitch or YouTube or Twitter right now.
Oh, that's me on my phone.
You're both people?
Oh, no, I'm not both people.
Okay, yeah. There's a second one. Certainly feel free to type a question. I don't know if you can do that on Twitter, but if you're on Twitch or YouTube, you should be able to ask us a question, and I should see it here. I don't know. Is that good enough for now? Like, can I just ask you real quick early impressions of your iPad Mini? Is that?
It is right here. It is adorable. Let's start with that. Adorable. the screen looks great. It is. I don't have one of the latest and greatest iPad Pro 13-inch devices that have the crazy good screen, but this looks really good to me. It is very holdable, which is the thing that I was hoping for. I haven't gotten to dig into it too much yet. It just arrived yesterday. And I spent most of the day yesterday working on other things. And this morning I watched Foundation over breakfast. So I did that on my larger screen. But it's really nice. There are some things that I've noticed where even like system level things have not been sized correctly. Like stuff will get cut off from the display. Like stuff that you need to tap or click will be just not viewable because it's not reflowed for this small screen. But
there is
general,
already an iPad Mini, so how is that? How did they overlook that?
I don't know. Maybe it's because it's a slightly larger display and they didn't test stuff with this version of the iPad Mini, and this is like grabbing the iPad Air or iPad nothing versions of those displays. I don't know exactly.
So
go ahead. Do you have any questions about it?
I don't even know if it's a question. The kind of person that I might want to become is exactly you right now at your desk. Because the question I've been asking myself is, do I want to do... I have the same iPad Pro you have, the 2018 12.9 inch, and I really just do not... I just really don't enjoy holding it. Like, it's not good for any of the reasons I enjoyed my original iPad. And
right.
A lot of people have warned me, like, because I've thought about going down to the smaller size Pro, my next go round. A lot of people have been warning me, you're going to miss it for the size of sheet music. I don't know if that's true. The way I use it in class a lot is the sheet music is actually even smaller than full screen, because I put it on half of the screen and then have a seating chart on the other half of the screen. So that would be a difficult workflow, maybe on a 10-inch iPad. So I'm asking this question is like, do I want to just have my next iPad be a smaller Pro, or do I want to just get the Mini because it's a cool, nice thing that does exactly what I want my iPad to do when I'm in bed? But see, then I have an iPhone Pro Max, so is the size difference really going to make, you know what I mean? Like, is the size really that different that it'll be a different experience than that? And do I want to own two iPad devices? That seems like a bit to manage. So you now have two iPad devices. And you most recently had an iPhone. You have on your desk an iPhone Pro Max. So tell me about my concerns.
I feel like in just the first little bit, and this is colored by the fact that this is my new toy, I really enjoyed reading on this iPad Mini much more than reading on my iPad or my iPhone Pro Max. I can see more stuff. It feels more like I'm holding a book. I have a Kindle Paperwhite I'm pointing in my apartment. I have a Kindle Paperwhite over there, and I imagine this thing as the replacement to my Kindle Paperwhite. I haven't set it up for this yet, but for things like DevonThink, where I'm reading web archives or where I'm reading PDF files that I've downloaded from JSTOR or whatnot, I feel like this is going to be the key device for that. I'm very excited that it uses my Apple Pencil 2 that I have for my iPad Pro. I haven't used it too much, but I think I will maybe not keep it attached to this all the time, because it does make it a little bit more awkward to hold around the side, to have the kind of like loose Apple Pencil just magneted on there as my holding grip point. But it feels really comfortable to hold in one hand, which is, one of the main goals of this thing. And the reason that I was interested in it over my iPad Pro 12.9 inch, because that's really awkward to sit and read PDF files. I haven't tried this yet. I do my my lesson outlines in Ulysses, and so I feel like this will be a nice device to like hold and go through lesson outlines as I'm like either walking around the room or just kind of here working on it at home. I don't know. It's like, so far I'm very, very happy with it.
Yeah, I read all the reviews and they made me want one, even though I keep telling myself I don't want to. To me, it's just like, is down the road, do I just want to try to have one medium-sized iPad, or does it really make sense to have two iPads?
Yeah, I do feel like a total doofus having two iPads and two Macs.
It's not that like
I don't have a solution to that problem.
Yeah,
Feeling like a doofus.
I don't know, but why do you feel like a doofus though? I don't have any problem like just having two things, and it's more like the do I want to like have two devices with the same operating system. I have two Macs, but I use it's a little different with Mac because I use my desktop Mac fundamentally in a different way than I use my MacBook.
Right.
But maybe that's how I would treat two iPads.
And that's how I intend to treat them. I intend to treat them as very different kinds of devices.
Do you
like I'm going to go up to the roof of my building later and read things that I've saved to Instapaper on this. I read some stuff on Instapaper on this thing earlier, and it was delightful.
Yeah, Instapaper on the iPad Pro 12.9 inches is ridiculous. It's like,
yeah,
the margins are huge.
Not fun.
Yeah,
it's not a good time.
No. Yeah,
but
okay.
it's truly delightful here. I'm a big fan of having just this like book-like experience here on my iPad. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go up. I'll read some Instapaper. I'll read some iBook books, Apple books. We don't call them iBooks. Mm-hmm. I'll read some Apple books up there. But yeah, so far I'm really happy with it. Also, the Starlight color is nice.
This is the one that's like a off-white.
Yeah, it's like an off-white.
I know many words.
It's like the cream color of an orchestral part, right? When you get the part from the orchestra librarian, and it's like an ivory color. It's like that, but shiny.
Yeah,
and slightly paler.
Well, I do want it,
and it's so cute.
I know, it looks like a nice thing. I'm just
it's like the straight mute that I have for my piccolo trumpet. It's just adorable.
But like, are you going to carry both in your bag to work?
That I haven't decided. I've got one of my weekend projects is to consider my backpack a little bit.
Okay. But
why are you laughing?
I'm just
you
because
never
this
spend
is
some
the
time
exact,
like.
This is exactly the kind of thing I would be thinking about if I had just bought an iPad Mini. So I'm just laughing because this is how I don't think that many people would understand, but I get it.
It's like that David Foster Wallace essay. Consider the backpack.
Consider the backpack. This
is my backpack.
Do you keep a laptop in there too, though?
I do. I do have a laptop. I usually keep my because this is my only Mac at school, is my school issued MacBook Pro. So I don't have a desktop computer at school, so I need to carry this around.
Okay. And what is that doing in your typical lecture? Is that putting a keynote?
In a typical lecture, it sits on top of the piano, and it's where I go to keep attendance in numbers because I'm airplaying my computer to the screen, and I don't want students to see the attendance records for the whole class while I'm doing other things. And also, the iPad is already in split screen with the slide over app, because most of the time I'm teaching, I have split screen with GoodNotes on one side and Ulysses on the other side, and then I have Spotify or some other audio player in slide over. So I need to have numbers elsewhere.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking through one of the fun things that I'm excited about coming out. I don't know when it's coming out, but I know a service I've been using lately is called Readwise. And
I just signed up for the early access of the thing.
I did too, because I love the idea of having like a read it, like an RSS, having my RSS, my read it later, and my PDF stuff all in the same place. And I just know like that's never going to be something I can read on a Kindle.
Right.
So it seems almost like if I do want to have a good reading experience, I really just need to suck it up. Which one did you just get? Like the most like entry level?
I got the 256 Wi-Fi.
Is that not the?
The base level is 64 gig Wi-Fi.
Okay.
And I could probably have gotten away with 64, but I didn't want to push my luck because I intend on keeping this for a good long while.
Yeah. I see. And see, I would be the thing is too is I have cellular on my iPad Pro, and like, would it make more
Oh,
sense to
I'm
have?
not. I'm not a cellular iPad boy.
Would it make more sense to disable cellular? Like, you know what I mean? If I was gonna have a cellular iPad in my life, wouldn't the smaller one make more sense? But then that's not gonna ideally be the one I'm doing email and stuff on, you know, from the car from a car trip. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, so I just did a little Tetris problem, and I figured out that if I arrange them just so, my three smaller devices will fit on top of my iPad device without hanging over. That's a lot of pixels.
So you think the iPad Mini feels a lot different than the Max? So it must be a lot different than because you just downgraded your phone's size, right? You're like a pro
yes.
iPhone user now, right? Not a Max. Okay.
Yes, I'm a regular pro.
You're a
And the
regular
reason I
pro.
had the Max before was mostly because it had some optical image stabilization for video
Yep.
that the regular Pro did not. But this year, it seems that the camera hardware is identical in the Pro and the Pro Max. And I was starting to get a little annoyed. Like, for example, when I go for a run, I have like a belt pouch thing for my phone because I don't like it on my arm. Because, first of all, it's hard to find an arm thing for the giant iPhone. But second of all, it inevitably like starts like flopping around and smacking against my elbow the whole time I'm running. So anyway, I have this pouch, and it like I have to really kind of jam this phone, in my giant Pro Max phone, in there to fit, because it was not designed for people that carry giant slabs.
Yeah,
So,
I was all in on the.
I've not taken this guy out on a trip yet, but it will fit much more nicely in the same size pouch.
Sure, yeah. I was not really like a bring my phone out on runs kind of person until because the watch is great for that kind of thing. But then when we got the Peloton subscription, they have these like really nice guided run, and I don't know if they could technically get those to run just on the watch, like if Apple like provides the necessary tools for that to happen. But it's like a phone thing, and it honestly is like so good. Like I had the best walk the other day. It was like a guided walk, and I was like, why is this so good? You don't think that you need someone to tell you how to walk until they're like making recommendations to you, and you're like, oh wait, that does move more, to use more muscle when I do it that way. So I bring my phone on my walks now. I'm with you, but I don't have a fancy arm pouch.
I listen. Well, it's just like it's the Rue Sport whatever. But I used it a lot when I was running half marathons, and I don't do that very much anymore because I'm old. But anyway, it was very nice for that kind of thing. I use Runkeeper to track my runs, and I listen to audio in Overcast podcasts. So I like having my phone with me. I have done it with just the watch, but it's nicer to have the phone.
Yeah, and I as much as I know that the Overcast watch app has been rewritten 800 times, I think that the current version of it is actually the one I've had the most trouble with. I don't know about you, but
I've gotten it to work. It took me a little while to figure out how it wanted to do its thing, but once I kind of figured out how it wanted to work, I haven't had too much trouble with it. It does only sync. I'm a weirdo, and I use separate podcast playlists for separate things, and so it will only sync one playlist at a time. But other than that, it's totally fine.
yeah, maybe I need to do that. All right, I'm gonna close the stream.
All right.
We've been doing this for a while. Let me
right.
hold on. Let me hit the button. Stop streaming.